Okay, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I remember reading something also. I wanted to cover that too. It was before the sajda. Okay. Anywho, um, oh, but, hmm. Okay. كل شيء من الله سبحانه وتعالى. Okay. So, so this evening, inshallah, we are going to start from Surah Al-Furqan, and we are uh, just a couple of pages into it. It's at the very beginning of the 19th para, the 19th juz. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now giving the account of what will take place in the akhirah, and the remorse, the regret of those people who now um, they've kind of been run into inescapable reality. So this is what happens after the delusion and the bubble of fantasy has been popped, after all the batil has been erased and it has been wiped away, and the haqq is clear and evident, plain and true. The ghaib is now what is unseen is now seen, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is giving the account of the zalim, the oppressor, the tyrant, that person who has wronged himself or herself. And this ya waylata, this remorse and this regret is coming. That laytani, so that if only, ya laytani. Laytani is used when remorse, regret, if only I had. So it involves something that deals with the past that you can't go back and change, as opposed to la'alla, and la'alla is in reference to the future, which now the possibility of that thing taking place actually exists. But laytani, it's all over. So here, Ya waylata laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila. So after they find out that this is what their situation with, this is what their situation is, and they are immersed and surrounded and consumed now by the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of their own actions, because of the delusion that they lived in this life, and fi hayat dunya, because of the choices that they made, their disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now this issue comes up where they're saying that if only I had not taken Fulan as a khalil, so this person as a friend. And this is a very important topic, especially for our young people, that who is a friend and what is a friend. And we use this term friend lightly, and we have, now mashallah, we have BFF, and we also have how many followers you have and who likes you and how many people are subscribing to you, and a lot of these people we do not know, but at the same time we allow them to have a degree of impact upon our lives, upon our psyche, spiritually as well, because that influence, we want to be liked by these people that are actually complete and total strangers. It was bad enough when the concern was over the peer pressure that we receive, and we still do receive, in our social interactions, say for instance in school, middle school and high school, as we're now maturing, and the psychological impact that this kind of peer pressure has. where it influences young people into doing things that normally, if they were left alone, that they would not engage in those actions, they would not commit those sins. But because of this external influence, shaitani, right? So because of this external influence, now the person finds himself doing things or saying things or running with a particular crowd that it doesn't fit with them, and they don't fit with that crowd and those actions. So now on Yom Qiyamah, on the day of judgment, now they'll say that if only I had not taken this person as a friend. So we have this peer pressure issue in our social circles and social settings, meaning real life social interaction. But now we have through social media, we now have that category of social interaction where these complete strangers and even a lot of times, you're not even like when you're saying a stranger, that's one thing. That means like I'm meeting somebody and I don't know who this person is. But here we're dealing with even like you're dealing with personas. So even the persona that the person might be displaying or portraying himself or herself as, actually, that isn't the person either. So it's really like you're dealing a lot of times even with a fictional, meaning a created persona or created a fictional human being, right? That is being propped up by an actual real human being behind the scenes. And again, we don't know who that person is. And the the viciousness and the sometimes the very venomous content and acidic content that comes from people, whether they're comment on it commenting and or twittering or whatever the case may be, um, that this is having a severe psychological impact upon people. And the question has to be why. What is it? We have to stop and think that what is it about that set of circumstances, right? In that environment, that social virtual environment, that now we feel so heavily influenced and we feel so much pressure and tension and stress to find acceptance with people who they themselves cannot be honest with themselves. We strive for acceptance from people who are propping up a fictitious, it's a front. So they put forth this veneer of their life, that everything is happy and everything is good, and this is how my life is. This is how I want to portray myself. This is how I would like to be. This is how I would like the world to see me. If I had a choice, this is how I would have it. So you have this veneer that is up in front, and what is it about? What is it about us that we've become so weak-hearted and weak-minded that we now crave validation and we crave recognition from complete and total strangers? There's something inherently wrong with that. That because as Muslims, especially with non-Muslims, it's easier to understand. It doesn't, again, that's not to justify, it's just easier to understand. But with Muslims, our identity is supposed to already be clearly defined by our Islam, who we are, what we are, our morals, our ethics, our cultural values and standards, our civilizational values and standards. Those things are something which pre-existed us for now literally centuries. What we're doing is now as the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we're able to tap into that and say that yes, I am the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that in and of itself is everything brought together into one statement. Who are you? I am a Muslim. I am the Abd of Allah. I am the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what does that mean? Now, mashallah, that's where the explanation of Islam comes in. This is our Sharia. It's our Aqidah. MashaAllah, it's the Quran, it's the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all that now is it's there, and it is my foundation, it is my pillars, it is my walls, it is my roof, it is my sword, it is my shield, it is my backbone, it is my intellect, it is my heart, it is my sincerity, it is my identity. So when we have that as Muslims, the only thing that can give us validation as the Abd of Allah in that role as being the Ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is, of course, the creator of the universe himself. But the real problem is that when we don't understand who we are and the status that we have and our role in the world today, and our responsibility of representing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we don't have that, this is where now that kind of black hole exists, that void exists in each and every one of us. And this is where that question comes: at how do we get from that to the point now where I need the validation of complete strangers. I need the validation. I need the validation of the kuffar and the mushrikeen. I need the validation of those who are following in the footsteps of khatawat shaitan, um, and the footsteps of shaitan. So, and now their social views, we find that that social pressure, that social political pressure, actually, and you can throw the economic pressure in there as well. That now all of this external pressure that we find, the Muslim community is succumbing to this pressure and folding underneath this pressure. And now we are adopting viewpoints, and we are adopting um, ideologies, modes of thinking, certain standards, adopting certain opinions, et cetera, so on and so forth, which are completely contradictory to our Islam. And this is what leads to that whole issue of cognitive dissonance. So now we have um, uh, 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 these colliding understandings where our internally we have these two things: we have our Islam, and then we have the pressures, and we have everything that we're being influenced by within the society, and we end up taking these people as friends. But who are they? Who deserves to be your friend? And a lot of times, as parents, we sit down with our young people and we talk to them about this. But yet, if we just take a step back and we look at our own lives, the same thing happens to us, from family members, from our coworkers, maybe our employers, or those who are in have higher levels within our employment structure than we do. Sometimes our neighbors, etc., and we ourselves succumb to that same pressure. Now, granted, the um, the environment is different. It's not like that whole high school, middle school thing. Although sometimes I do wonder the way that people act, but that's that. But then now it's like, just because you're not a teenager, or you're not in college, you're not 20, 21, 22 anymore. It doesn't mean that just because now you are in your 30s or your 40s or even your 50s or even your 60s, that when like one plus one still equals two. The fact that now you are in a different place and a different time in your life, and you're older and you have more experience. Oranges are still oranges, and apples are still apples. Water is wet and the sky is blue. One plus one equals two. So it's still the same thing. And if we succumb there for the same reasons that we succumb to that pressure there at a young, tender age, it's the same reason why we keep doing it throughout our lives. Even though the way that takes place, it may change. So the option of taking somebody as a friend, that is something that's a very special status. When you say that this person is, because we say, for instance, that Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he's Khalilullah, right? That he is the friend of Allah, that this is like somebody that's very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah has brought this person very close to him. So this status, and we say that, like, yes, Ibrahim, Khalilullah, that is also one of the names of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the Khalil of Allah, he's the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we take somebody, when we understand a Khalil to be like that, and now we're taking, and what that's based on, it wasn't because Ibrahim was wealthy or he was educated, or it was because of his deen. It was because of his Islam. It was because of his sincerity. It was because of his obedience and his trustworthiness. It was who he was, that Allah Ta'ala gave him this status of being Khalilullah. When we take people as our Khalil, as a close and intimate friend, and they haven't earned it, right? There's something inherently wrong with that. Why should you care? Don't care. If they have something negative say, the only thing that we should do is like, look, there might be some truth in that. So let me look and see, like, is there something that I can take from this negativity? There might be a granule of positivity that I can pull out from this and be like, you know what? Yeah, I could change this thing, and it would make me a better Muslim. It would bring me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even from a fast, sometimes the truth does come out of their mouths. So like I can take this, I can glean the positive from it. All that negativity, sorry, you can keep that to yourself because I don't need validation from you. You don't determine who I am. You don't judge who I am. I have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. He is my Rabb, you are not. So if you have a different opinion, you have a different way of looking at things, you like me, you don't like me, mashallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you hidayah. But my responsibility is to be accountable and answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My responsibility is to prepare for my meeting and my judgment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those people who I'm going to choose to be my Khalil are those people who have that same level of understanding. And because of that level of understanding, they are the ones who have that complete Iman, and they fall in that category where Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says more or less the meaning لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. That not one of you is a perfect, a complete believer until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. They love to gain the pleasure of Allah. They love to have the rahmah of Allah, the maghfirah of Allah, the fadl of Allah. They love to be saved from the hellfire and enter into Jannah. And because of that, they love the same thing for me. This person now qualifies to be my friend. This person now qualifies to be my intimate companion. When I'm with this person, they remind me of the dhikr of Allah. When I'm with this person, they bring me closer to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When I'm with this person, if my footsteps starts to stray, that they are going to, with in no uncertain terms, that they are going to be the ones that are going to grab me by the back of my collar and say, "Hold on, ya akhi, hold on, ukhti, don't go that way." And they're going to tell me those difficult things that I may not want to hear and I may not like to hear, but I need to hear. That's a friend. That's a true friend. Otherwise, we run the risk of this, that we take these people as friends and now it's ya laytani. That laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalilan laqad adallani, that he has misguided me. And dhikri ba'da idh ja'ani, from the remembrance, whether that is the Quran or whether that is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the aspects of our aqidah, all that is going to be included in dhikr after it has come to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made me Muslim. The truth has come to me. And now, because I took this person as a friend, because I wasn't cautious and careful about who I brought within that inner circle, those who I made my intimate companions, because I wasn't careful about that, this person now has become a means of my misguidance. وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. And shaitan, this is what shaitan wants from us all the time. So to this deception and misguidance and delusion, all of this is what shaitan wants from us. And when somebody is engaged in the disobedience of Allah, then they are now the tool of shaitan. Whether they are conscious of it or unconscious of it is completely irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. And it could be your spouse, it could be your child, it could be your parents, it could be your neighbors, it could be a family member, it could be a complete and total stranger. This person could be at work, person could be a celebrity. It doesn't matter who it is. Any person, any walk of life, it could be anybody. If they are in the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they have stepped out of their own choosing. They have stepped out of the rahmah of Allah. They have stepped out of the protection of Allah, and therefore shaitan can now manipulate them and use them as a means of misguidance and a means of tyranny and oppression and destruction of other people. Whether they are conscious of it or unconscious of it, the result is still the same. Their accountability is still the same as well. But the problem is that you and I, we have to remain conscious. We have to be on guard. We have to choose these people that we're going to say that this is my friend. They have to be worthy of it, because each and every Muslim, each and every human being, but more importantly and more specifically a Muslim, because you have accepted the truth, each and every Muslim, you are special. That validation has come because Allah made you Muslim. What more validation do you need? You are Muslim. Allah made you Muslim. Your status among the entirety of humanity has already been elevated. You are Muslim. You are the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So those people, now the same with royalty. Royalty are very particular about who will they let in the palace and who they will let into the courtroom and to the inner circle, right? So the same way, you have a special status. So choose very carefully those people who are your friends, those people who are your confidants, and those people who now you are going to spend your time with and take information from and take opinions from, that these people, they must be of a certain caliber. They must be of a certain caliber. They must be worthy, because then it is by that way, by you and I first, because this is the end, but that's one thing as far as like them being worthy. But then there's the other side of it as well, and we don't have enough time. But suffice to say, you and I must also be worthy. You and I must also be worthy. We look at other people and we judge other people also. We are also guilty of the same thing. We do this to other people. We are the culprits. We are the criminals. We are the perpetrators. So we do this to other people. So at the same time, we have to ask ourselves that, am I a worthy friend? Do I am this what we just described as what a friend is, right? Ultimately, we're going to look at this Khalilullah, right? We're going to look at Ibrahim alayhi salam and say, this is Khalilullah. This is who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said is Khalil. And we look at Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Habib Allah, the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, how close am I to this standard? Am I a friend? Should somebody trust me? Do I bring people closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like, am I willing? Am I a positive influence? Am I helping this Muslim brother or sister get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And am I helping them to be eligible for their najat, their salvation from the hellfire? Because at the end of the day, they say, وَقَالَ Rasul, excuse me. Yeah. وقال الرسول يا ربي إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that the messenger, the messenger said, Ya Rabbi, O my Rabb, inna qawmi, that my people, they have taken this Quran mahjura, like you've thrown it behind your back. When we take these people that are breaking the orders of Allah, that have no regard for the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it doesn't matter again how rich they are, how educated they are, if they're family, if they're strangers, whatever. If they don't have any regard for obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if they fall into this category where now the Rasul is saying that, Ya Rabbi, my people have taken this Quran and now thrown it behind their backs. They have no regard for it whatsoever. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guard us and protect us from ever being like that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from ever having these negative pressures and influences from these people who are in the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from the barrage of negativity that is so pervasive in our society today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts to the rahmah of Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts to the itminan and the iqna'a that comes with this contentment that comes with the practicing of the Quran and the Sunnah of our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst those who are close to him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us his beloved and make Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam beloved in our eyes and in our hearts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beloved in our eyes and our hearts above all else, above anyone else in the entirety of the creation. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah, tonight is the 20th. We are entering into the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan, just like that. Inshallah, we will talk a little bit tomorrow night, inshallah, tomorrow evening, because it will be the 21st. So we will be talking just a little bit, inshallah, about Laylatul Qadr, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan jaza. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa